This video, I'm going to show you how to create a map overlay to represent your neighborhood. As you can see right here, this is a combination of 3 different images. There's the text that says West Philadelphia. There is the map, which is right over here. And then there's images of Philadelphia row homes. Now, I lived in West Philadelphia, so I know that row homes, especially those Victorian row homes, are something that represent the neighborhood. And then the map of Philadelphia is just reinforcing that part, which shows West Philadelphia on here. I'm going to show you how to actually create that, all right? I am also showing another one right here, which I created of Chinatown. This one, I combined the same map with an image that I took of Chinatown when it was Chinese New Year's. I edited the text to say Philadelphia, and then I split Chinatown into 2 words. I added an image of my dad there as well, just to add a little bit of depth and some contrast between the light and the dark there. All right, so let's get started. The first thing you're gonna do, you're gonna open up the image of your neighborhood. Now in this case, I opened up an image of West Philadelphia right here. All you do in Pixlr.com, you click on File, Open Image, and you can select that image. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click on Layer, and I'm going to add image as layer. Now I do want to look for the one of the map, which I've already downloaded, which is right over here. Hit download and open. All right, so sometimes it comes in a little bit big, and it's actually better if it's big versus small. I select the arrange tool right here, which is the little arrow, and I can move this around. I could also pull the corner to make it smaller. Now you don't want it to be too small. There you go. You don't want it to be too small because your map does have to cover the actual finished product right there, like the artboard itself. So I'm going to put it somewhere around here. I could go in there and change it later, but I have the 2 layers, the map and the image of Philadelphia right here. So I'm going to click on the 3 circles on my map layer, and I'm going to change the blend mode. Yours might be a little bit different, but I know for this one, exclusion works best, right? It gives me the effect that I want. And right here, I usually try to align, let's see, I usually try to align the word Philadelphia with that while still covering this part up. It's just going to look better at the end. So there you go. Once you have it where you want it, you could actually lock it, and I'll show you later on why that's important, but I could lock it, and then I could also duplicate it as well. The reason I want to duplicate it, if you look, the lines are not as strong on the map. The text seems okay. I like the effect that it gave the actual picture of the row homes, but I want to duplicate it. And when I duplicate it, I have 2 of them that have the exclusion blend mode, but the top one I actually don't want it to have exclusion. I want it to have multiply. And you can see it brought out the lines a little bit more. It even brought out the text a little bit more. I could duplicate this again and make it even darker. You could duplicate it as many times as you want. It will make it darker, but it will also make the other parts lighter. It depends on what style you necessarily want to do with it. But for me, I think 2 with multiply and then 1 with exclusion works best. This one I haven't touched at all. Now I do want to lock these. I'll show you why. Lock this one. Lock this one, and again, your image and your map might be a little bit different. The last thing I need to add is the text itself. So I try to look for different ways of actually incorporating text. I clicked on the text tool right there. I clicked right here, and then I'm going to hit add. I try to incorporate text a little bit different each time. Sometimes I've done it where it's WE and then ST, right? To kind of stack them on top of each other. On this one, I'm going to do it the same way, which is WEST, just like I did it right there. Sometimes you do want to change other parts of it. For example, right here, you can see it's huge, right? And my text box, which is this blue line right here, does not let me see any more of it. So I could click on the side and pull it over. Click on the side and pull it over. That text box is basically like a window into your text. You could change the font. I've used a lot of different fonts before on this. Some of them work better than others, especially with West being so big. I try to make it even bigger or bolder at least. So I look for something that's going to be nice and bold. Let's see. I'm going to use, what's the one that I used before? Started with a B, and it is this one right here. Yep. It's nice and bold. I can move this up right here. And here's the thing. You might be asking yourself, so I see the font right here, and then the color is blue, but it looks red. The reason it looks red is because behind all three of these. Now, especially this last one, which has the exclusion blend mode, that's going to change the color of it, just like it changed the color of our image. So I'm going to move this up one, and I have more control over it. I can still see it interacting with these two other maps, which is great. If you think it's too strong, you can move it up here, and you can see it still gives you some of it, but for me, I want it over here. All right, then I won't need to write Philadelphia, so I'm going to click on the type tool again. Then I'm going to click down here and just type out, there you go, hit add. I'm going to type out Philadelphia, also in all caps. Now you could change the kind, not the kind, you could change the font. You could change, what else can you change? The color, you could change any of those things. If you are going to change fonts, try to pick something that is very different, something that's going to contrast that font right there. So something, I don't know, thinner, much thinner actually. And maybe a serif font. Let's see, even though this one is similar in thickness, I'm just going to bring the size down so I can see the whole thing. And now I can move it down to where I think it needs to be, right over here. I can still play around with the colors. I could bring this up here so I can see it better, change the color. Let's see. I like to pick up colors that already exist in the piece. And in this case, orange does exist on there, but I try to make it a little bit different, maybe a little bit darker. Yep, that seems fine. Now there are other effects that you could add to this, and I'm slightly like just gonna go over those things. So I said font, fill, size. Even on fill, you could change some stuff. Instead of a solid color, create a gradient or a pattern. This is actually good for a second layer. If you want to duplicate West and create one that has a texture or a pattern in it like this, you could change the scale of it right here, right? You could change the color of it right here, right? Or here, sure, green. I love this one. Not sure why, but I do, right? But I'm gonna stick to a solid color. There it is. Other options, the format. Change the line spacing, the letter spacing. The letter spacing is very important. That's actually called kerning. Line spacing would be leading, but in this case, that's what it calls it. And then right over here, the different styles, right? You could curve it. I don't find it necessarily useful for this, but some people might love this. It turns it into a circle. I don't necessarily love it. Add a background, it just adds a bar behind it. An outline, sometimes that's useful, especially if you want to punch it out. Punch it out is right here, right? Just having that outline, but not going to have that. The shadow is actually really good if you want to create something that's going to create, I guess, more emphasis on the text itself. I'm going to bring the blur down, bring the opacity all the way up, bring the distance a little bit closer. Bring the direction a little bit more aligned right there. There, maybe the opacity a little bit down because that stands out a little bit too much. Distance a little bit in. Yeah, it just makes it stand out a little bit more. All right. You could add a blend mode to this if you want, but this is all experimental. But the end result is definitely something that's visually pleasing. You can see it combines the three things, the text, the map, and the actual images together to create something that, again, visually appealing, very collagey, but it conveys a lot of information in a small space. All right, hope you enjoyed this, hope it helped,